Welcome back. This is the last episode of season 2. We've been on quite a journey this season in negotiating with yourself first. We've explored those internal voices, scripts in your head that come from family, from culture, school, early experiences. We've checked in with your nervous system, with your body, to understand what our bodies are telling us in high pressure moments. And we've dug into building confidence by asking, do I believe I can do this?
That's right, Gitanjali. It's really been about understanding the invisible negotiations happening inside us before the visible ones outside. And today, on our final episode of season 2, we are bringing all of that internal work together. The title of this episode, I love it, is called Owning My Story. It's about integrating everything we've learned so that we can step into negotiations with a renewed strength and a clear sense of who we are. The inner question guiding us today is, who am I really?
I really like that, owning my story. It does feel like a culmination of the season's journey.
Yes.
So let's structure this. I was thinking that maybe we could think about this, since we've talked about episodes, that we could think about this episode like a play.
I love that.
Cool. Okay, good. I'm glad you approve. Yeah. So it's like a guide with 4 acts, like Shakespeare had acts. So we have 4 acts. So we are inviting our listeners to be actors in this play, using this episode as their personal playbook for stepping into their power. Each act focuses on a different aspect of coming home, which is, I'll tell you, but it's going to be fun and insightful and hopefully incredibly empowering.
You've been very creative today, aren't you? All right, so what's Act 1?
Okay. Dun, da, 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 da. Okay, Act 1. You were never broken.
Great.
This act is about reframing the idea of we need to fix ourselves to be effective negotiators. It's a homecoming to who you already are. The challenges we face, the doubts, the unique experiences, they are not flaws to be erased, but they are part of our story. They are laced with magic, with gold. We've challenged the belief that we have to suppress parts of ourselves. Maybe it's like our culture, our emotions. Very often the question is, I'm too emotional. Well, it is challenging about those parts that have to be suppressed. Culture, emotions, a willingness to question, to be seen as capable.
I mean, we spoke about this throughout the season, is that your culture, your unique background, and the way you process things are not a disadvantage. They actually play to your advantage because you're the only one who has that.
Mhm.
So when you're thinking about your culture, your softness, your range of emotions, your tendency to question, they're all part of your negotiating power.
Mhm.
Power isn't something that we put on or we perform. It's something that you need to discover within yourself. And that's why we say you were never broken, because you need to rediscover the power that you already have within yourself.
Mhm.
You don't need to be fixed. You're not broken. You only need to return to yourself.
Do you know about Brené Brown? There's a lot written about vulnerability. So
There's a great season actually on HBO about
is it
emotions. I think it's on HBO if I'm not wrong, but
really?
very, very famous. She's very famous.
Huh. Okay. I did not know that actually. So she emphasizes, I think, this embracing your imperfections so that you can live happy and you can live wholehearted. So you own your story. I like that, living wholeheartedly.
Yeah, and I think Brené Brown, she also talks a lot about being able to name emotion. So that when you feel something, it's not just I'm feeling happy, I'm feeling sad, just the basic emotions, but you feel overwhelmed, you feel deeply, so that if you have the name for that emotion, it's easier to communicate.
Yeah, I like that. You also told me a really fun example. It was something from, I don't know, Encanto, or I don't really know these. What was that?
I think the movie the Disney's Encanto, where basically the message of the story is that they go on this adventure to find the gift. I can't remember exactly what the gift was, but they find it. But the ending is they realize they are the gift, they are the true gift. Oh, and that I think is the most beautiful thing, because she didn't have any, like, I think it was Mirabelle, if I don't remember. Her whole, yes, I remember now. Okay. Her whole family had some special magical power, and she was the only one that didn't have the magical power. But eventually she realized that the way that she was the gift to her family, and it was exactly what her family needed to open up the. I remember, yeah. So it's a playful, but it's a reminder that your value isn't to meeting some external standard, or what you need to be before you could start negotiating, or have some kind of special power. Okay. But it's about bringing your authentic self to the table, because you will always negotiate differently to somebody else. Okay. So we are not broken. Yes. We are just coming home to ourselves, and we're recognizing our inherent power. So what's our next act? Okay. Another drum roll. Okay. So Act 2. Act 2. All the voices you carry. Okay. So in this act, we reflect back on those voices, the internal scripts we've been discussing. Remember, whose voice is this really? We've spent the season tuning into those ingrained beliefs from family, culture, school, your first job, my first boss. Now it's about recognizing which of those voices still linger, and which ones have softened over time, and which ones have gotten louder. And most importantly, tuning into the voice that has emerged doing this internal work. Which is hopefully your own. Yes, yes. The scripts, I mean, we spoke about this in the script episode where I told you about Francois, my internal Francois, which is a seductive saboteur. That's not my voice. I keep saying it, but that's why I given him the name Francois. It's not my voice. It's about recognizing my voice, which is sometimes, it's just seething under the surface, to actually be able to recognize it and be like, huh, that's who our voice really is. That's the voice that's trying to break free, break through. There's a really interesting book by Julia Cameron. She's an artist, and it's called The Artist's Way. Oh. And have you read it? From our previous team, we had Kirsten, who's also an author. Yeah. And Kirsten told me about this book that was very powerful in a way to document your voice in a sense. In a sense, yeah. I'm not sure if it's the same book. Oh, maybe not then. Maybe not. But this book is really, that's what's called The Artist's Way. Because if you think of it, most people, if you go into any, like I do this a lot of workshops where I try to make people draw, and they're like, oh, I can't draw. I'm a terrible artist. I can't draw. I'm never going to be able to draw. And the whole idea is that it's, you don't have to actually be an artist. Creativity is a natural spiritual part of life. Like, you are able to be creative even if you're not an artist. And it is those let's say limiting beliefs that, those blocks like fear, guilt, self-criticism, that are normal, that can be overcome. So anybody can be an artist. And she has a really, really nice practice in the morning called the morning pages, which is about just writing, your stream of consciousness every morning to clear the mental clutter and access that deeper creativity. And here I can think we can, instead of saying creativity, we can say your voice, really finding your voice. So maybe it's the same book now that I'm thinking about it. Maybe it was this exercise that Kirsten was. Yeah, probably. Yeah. And this thing about your voice, and so maybe let's say it's these morning pages, there's also an aspect of your voice which is connecting back to your body, right? So we know our physical reactions aren't just normal, random stuff that's happening. Yeah. They are signals. As is procrastination, by the way. It isn't just laziness. It's also maybe a signal of fear or avoidance, complexity that you don't want to deal with, right? So in this season, we've built this inner toolkit, let's say. So you have an awareness of your script. You have an awareness of your body and how it responds. From season 1, you know your values, you know your partner, you know your options. Now it's time to trust that toolkit. Yeah. It's even touched upon in the concept of deserving. So you told me about Lisa Feldman's work
on emotions?
Yeah, so I would obviously do some research around emotions. And there's a book that she wrote about how emotions are made. And it very much touches everything that we're talking about, that emotions aren't just fixed reactions, but they're constructed by our brains based on prior experiences. So a lot of the time that you have an emotional reaction, it might not be that you're reacting to that particular situation that's happening, but a threat or something that was happening previously. And therefore you react with that same amount of intensity. And just to know that, I mean, I think a lot of this is based on awareness, is that this reframes how we view our nervous system responses or the feeling that we can't, because the feeling that we can't might be a feeling to something that we were reacting to earlier. But having done this work, the question is, who am I now?
Yeah. And this, who am I now? It can be complex. It can be things that we've carried forward, these past experiences, right? So we are actually not at the mercy of all of this.
No.
We can create our own voice, our own script, a fresh new revival. Right? So, are you ready now for Act 3?
I am.
Okay. Dun, da, 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 da. Act 3. Culture as power, not limitation. So Act 3 is about, I don't like to say leaning in, but let's say it, okay? Leaning into our identities as women, as people of color, and all the intersections within that. We've discussed how stereotypes and biases can create disadvantages in a negotiation, sure. But this act is about transforming that. It's about seeing how our unique perspective has shaped culture and identity, but is also a valuable source of strength in a negotiation. I have to tell you something that just happened 2 days ago. I was actually, you were in the car with me when we were discussing this. I'm negotiating something. Let's call it a contract, and it's a series of little mini contracts. And I was not allowed to say who my client was, you know. And in this negotiation, I mentioned the decision maker as a she. And the truth, whether it didn't matter whether it was a he or a she, didn't matter, but I said she. So I said the decision maker is really keen for this to work this way. She said this, she. I use she all the time. And the feedback I got back later was, this is the first time people have, a person, you, have referred to a decision maker as a she.
Wow.
Apparently, every time this discussion has happened in the past, this hypothetical decision maker has been referred to as a he, even by women. And this is where I began to realize it is a source of strength who I am. I recognize these things. It came so naturally. I didn't even think that I was saying she.
Yeah.
And then when the other person commented,
Wasn't a real decision maker? Was she a she?
She wasn't. That's the point. It wasn't. It was a hypothetical. It could have been anybody. It really didn't matter because this was a collection of entities, right? It wasn't even, they were a collection of entities, so it didn't even have a gender. But I gave it the gender of a she as a decision maker, as a person of power. And previously, when these discussions have happened, even the women negotiating referred to these entities as he.
This reminds me of this. It's almost like a puzzle when you say that a son and a father were driving a car. What is it?
Yeah, I know. Okay. Yeah, but I do know what you're talking about. Okay.
And they were driving a car, and they had an accident.
Yeah.
And both of them, one father died, and
Ooh.
one was rushed to hospital. And when they reached the hospital, the surgeon looked at the son and was like, "Oh my God, my son! How is that possible?"
Yeah, that's because you assumed that the surgeon was a man and not the woman, and the husband had died, and you just, yeah, I know what you mean.
So,
yes.
To be honest, very intelligent people, because I know this was something I used to ask people before, very intelligent people have not been able to figure it out.
Yeah.
The fact that the surgeon could be the mother, it's a very simple thing, but it's something that always reminded me that no matter how educated you are, our biases are so strong. And one thing about stereotypes, because we have spoken about stereotypes, and I was listening to Trevor Noah's podcast, So What, and he had the author of Americana, I think, I hope I pronounce it well, Chimamanda, I think is her name. And she talks about the danger of a single story.
Okay.
How stereotypes makes just knowing a part of a stereotype makes the entire story incomplete because you actually don't know the person.
Yeah.
And understanding the person is so important behind the stereotype. And she also talks about how she loves fiction stories because even though it is fiction, you can really tell a story of reality through fiction and give it the color and the imagery that's required to tell a story of a person who is of color, who, you know, other people cannot, maybe don't know, to make them understand the realities that they live. And I mean, this is just an interesting part because this act is really about writing a fuller, more powerful story for us.
Yes, absolutely. It drives me crazy when, you know, in corporate, I was going to say corporate America, but corporate anywhere, you have this soft skills training. Oh my God, it drives me crazy when people say soft skills. I'm like, what are you in the 1980s? So, but here's the thing. Recognizing the things that feel soft in quotes, like empathy, intuition, values, adaptability, these are actual legitimate strengths, especially in negotiations. Your way of being isn't a liability, it's leadership.
No, it's so true. I mean, I've always had this problem because it's always soft skills that I've been stronger at than finance, for example, which is, I think, my ultimate.
Hey, Appa, I'm going to stop you right now. You just did this. You limited yourself and you made soft skills sound lesser. You said, I don't have finance. You do not write limiting stories for yourself. A soft skill, we just discussed it. It is a social skill. It's a strength.
That brings me to the idea of Beyonce's, you know, black joy. Have you heard of that?
No, I actually don't know. No, I don't know it at all.
She talks about like using joy and the fact that Black women can have and show joy as an act of resistance.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's called Black Joy Movement.
Okay.
For women and people of color entering negotiations with joy, with happiness as almost like a radical act because it's not expected by society.
Okay, I like that. It's a little rebellion right there.
It was something that when I was doing some research, it was an interesting kind of fit in with this whole negotiation topic. Because again, it's going against stereotypes. It's refusing to be constrained by it's about just knowing and accepting that you deserve good things and finding pleasure in things which are normally not expected, but in those hard conversations, being able to be like, I can do this, and I find pleasure in it.
Okay, I like that. I actually didn't know this. Thank you for telling me about that. Did you also, were you the one who was telling me about Japanese broken pottery thingy?
The board
Yeah, I think, were you telling me that?
to do with it. So
Oh, yes. Okay.
yeah, Kitsungi, I think it's called.
Okay. And what is it? It's this, it's about break it and stick it together with gold, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is, so, okay, so let's make a metaphor out of this. So you are laced with gold because the work you've done, even though it might have cracks, it might be broken, it's still beautiful and you're stronger because of those lived experiences.
Yeah, I mean, because before we mentioned that you're not broken, I'm using maybe the metaphor of being broken is not the right one here, but I do think it's about using those scars, or I would say almost the scars are beautiful as
yes.
So not
okay.
like
yeah.
I think that's a better way to put it because I think the idea of being broken is one that women tell themselves too often.
You know, I had a period in my life, a reasonable length of time, where I think I told you this, I felt like I was alone in the world, which is not true, right? I've never been alone. I just thought I was alone in the world. It was a story I told myself. It was my script. I also thought of myself as cracked, broken, all these really unhealthy words altogether. And then I read total rubbish. I mean, sorry, no disrespect, not rubbish, but like fun fiction. I read this series, one of my friends told me, and it was to help me not read the serious stuff that I was reading. And so she suggested reading Louise Penny. Do you know who Louise Penny is? Okay. So Louise Penny writes these murder mysteries. Oh. And the murder mystery has Inspector Gamache, and he's this. I deliberately have not watched the TV. There's also a TV show called Three Pines that is based on this. But in that, there's one book, and that book is called The Light Gets Through. And when I read that book, yes, it's a murder mystery, just the phrase, the light gets through, it's a beautiful phrase. And for me, I felt like, when you have mesh, it breathes. Yeah. And light gets through it. It's not solid. It's not heavy. It's not dense. There's the lightness of being around it. And that I found just as a wonderful way to frame culture as being a power, because I thought of, and this is just in October, I went back to see the Taj Mahal. Yeah. And the Taj Mahal has, and the light gets through. And I thought, my God, this monument is built for sorrow, sadness, great love, lost love, all of those things, but the light gets through.
There's a softness about it, right?
Yes.
And this is again going back to the religion or the cultural backgrounds we spoke about, right? Mm-hmm. You don't need to not be feminine. Mm-hmm. Or light. I mean, if that's not your style, that's mm-hmm. completely okay. But what I'm saying is the feminine, like, urge of being demure and mm-hmm. soft and calm. You can be those things mm-hmm. and still back yourself.
Yeah.
I think that's absolutely beautiful. Like, mm-hmm. I love that, again, that imagery of the Taj Mahal, because I have seen it. And to be honest, there is this energy there, which is really incomparable. Like, it gave me goosebumps. It's yeah. It was beautiful. It was beautiful.
Right.
There's one in which, mm-hmm. have you watched Barbie?
No, I have not, but that's also because I don't like to watch movies. But okay, tell me about Barbie. What about Barbie?
I think it's very well known, and just in the spirit of this challenging of impossible standards that women have to face and mm-hmm. people of color have to face. Let's just remember, I mean, if you haven't watched it, I will Google it quickly for you so I can read you a little bit.
Okay.
America Ferrera, she has this really, really powerful monologue. It's probably the most powerful scene of the entire movie.
Okay.
In the Barbie movie. And it really, like, what it does is highlights the contradictory expectations placed on women. Mm-hmm. And it makes it clear that simply, daring to believe in yourself mm-hmm. is an act of rebellion. It's similar to the Beyonce part mm-hmm. I was talking about. That yeah. to believing in yourself itself is a form of almost political resistance. Mm-hmm. And being able to negotiate joyfully, boldly is also therefore an act of resistance against those impossible standards. Mm-hmm. Let me just quickly Google a part of the speech, because I think it really is beautiful.
Okay. Say it.
Let me find it right. You have to have money, but you can't ask for money because that's crass. You have to be a boss, but you can't be mean. You have to lead, but you can't squash other people's ideas. You're supposed to you're supposed to love being a mother, but don't talk about your kids all the time. You have to be a career woman, but also be looking out for other people. You have to answer for men's bad behavior, which is insane. But if you point that out, you're accused of complaining. Mm. You're supposed to say pretty, but not so pretty that you tempt them too much, or that you threaten other women, because you're supposed to be part of the sisterhood. But always stand out and always be grateful, and never forget that the system is rigged. So find a way to acknowledge that, but also always be graceful.
Oh, I'm tired. Oh, that's a lot. Yeah.
Oh, nobody gives you a medal or says thank you. And the whole speech, like, yes, there's a lot of discussion around this, and mm-hmm. that we could talk about whether it really is, the system is really rigged mm-hmm. or not.
Fine. Yeah.
But that monologue, mm-hmm. it really shows the contradictions
yeah.
that a lot of the time women have to go through. But also, can you imagine women and people of color? It's like a double whammy on the stage. So
yeah.
It's just interesting to watch, but at the same time, we spoke about it. This is the best time in the world to be a woman of color. So I just wanted to leave it at that.
Yeah. And all of this is part of your identity.
Yes.
Your experiences, your emotions, they are a source of power. They're not things to hide. And bringing joy to the table is an act of resistance and of self-worth.
Of self-worth. I think that's
Yeah.
Self-worth, because loving yourself is the the ultimate act of resistance.
Yes. Okay, so now Act 4.
Final act.
Final act. Act 4. Negotiation as a radical act of self-belief.
So we ended up at a perfect spot.
Yes. In this final act, we reflect on the transformation that happens when we move from an external framework to internal readiness.
Mhm.
So negotiation shifts from just a stressful task, something you have to do, to a profound act of self-affirmation.
So it's really integrating the toolkit that we built in season 1 about the prep, about your values, about Vatna, Zopa, all the terms that you needed that we didn't know about, with that internal work of season 2.
Exactly. And we've faced those fears. We've discussed our doubts. We've kind of made a little mini catalog of all our old scripts. Now, every time you choose to negotiate, every time you ask for what you need, you're affirming your worth. So your presence at the table changes the table, especially for women and people of color who have historically been excluded or minimized.
I love the way that this act is named, because it's a radical act of self-belief. And I think that's really, it shows that just believing in yourself and acting that way, even that is a form of resistance. And I think that's really beautiful.
And Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who I didn't follow very much or know very much of, but she had this fantastic quote, something that she said: "Women belong in all places where decisions are being made." So you don't need to justify your presence. You don't have to think about whether you deserve power, because you already have power.
Yeah. That actually reminds me of this Indian folk story, a little bit about this baby elephant and its captors. And And basically, the baby elephant was put into chains. And of course, he tried to break free as a baby, and he tried to pull and pull. And when it was small, and over time, he just stopped trying because he couldn't get out. And even when he was strong, even when he was big, the scripts that he told himself didn't allow him to come out of it. And so even when it grows big enough to break the rope easily, it stays put because of the belief of being powerless. It remains in the mind. And therefore, the rope is the internalized belief and not the actual limitation.
So wouldn't this be an example of learned helplessness? Yeah. So the moral is that it's often not the external this obstacle, this rope, but the belief that is holding you back.
Yeah.
So I hope that the work we've done this season of understanding our scripts, calming our nervous system, building confidence, reclaiming deserving is about breaking that rope.
100%. I think that's the reason why it came to mind. And that's why it's a radical act of self-belief.
Yeah.
Because it needs to be radical, because it doesn't come naturally.
So what do you think at the end of this play, at the end of this playbook, this act, these series of acts, what is the question?
To me, it would be that if you deserved to take up space, what would you ask for?
Okay, so if you believed you deserved to take up space, what would you ask for?
Yeah.
So that requires actually giving yourself permission to ask. It requires trusting your inner toolkit. It requires seeing your identity and your experiences as power. I often say, as a woman, as a brown woman or whatever, I use it as a negative. I say it, sometimes to the family. I'm like, the world, like, what am I going to do? Right? Who's going to buy from me, or what's going to happen? Instead, now I want to flip this, and that my identity and these experiences is me choosing winning, joy, rebellion, all of that over fear.
Yeah, it is. And I think you said it perfectly. It is about giving yourself permission, but it is about first believing in yourself that you deserve it. And I mean, there is, and we spoke about it a little bit about the political warfare, but there was a quote that I found, which is caring for myself is not self indulgence, it is self preservation. And that itself is an act of political warfare.
Oof.
Negotiating for yourself is self preservation, it's self advocacy. And for women and people of color facing like we spoke about this double outsider effect, right? It's both personal empowerment, but also systemic disruption. It is a radical act.
It is. It is. Okay, bringing it back to a personal level, what mantras, whether negotiation or not, doesn't matter, have emerged for you this season, Appa?
Personal safety is a very important theme for me. And for me, maybe it's safe to want more. It's okay to want more. This one really resonates with challenging those old scripts and giving myself a mission, because for me, a lot of the time I thought asking, if I was to ask, I'm not safe enough to ask for it. I don't think I deserve it. And knowing that it's safe to want more and articulate that without having backlash, that's really, I think, the main takeaway.
For me, it has been believing what I've always believed, which is the power of quiet confidence. That my quiet confidence is grounded in preparation and in self-awareness, and that I don't need to be loud to be heard. I mean, that's never been me. I don't need to be loud to be heard, but having faith and belief that quiet confidence is the way to go. I don't need to be chest thumping at all.
Yeah, I love that. I absolutely do. I think that's something we both share, because I am always quite well prepared. And I think the idea of my voice shaking or my hands shaking, I do like the idea that I belong at this table, even if I'm a bit nervous and shaky. And it acknowledges the nervous system response, but it also asserts my right to be there anyway.
Yeah. And these mantras, these phrases like quiet confidence or I belong at the table, these are like condensed scripts. These are shortened, crisp scripts for power, for empowerment, for drawing on all of this internal work we've done. So they are tools to carry with you, actually.
Yeah. They're more like affirmations as well.
Oh, yeah.
We could, I think that's something I do with my son every night. I am unique. I'm, beautiful. I'm enough. These could be part of it, right? I'm alone at the table.
Yeah.
My voice is heard.
Yes.
I don't need to be loud to be heard. I don't have to over-explain myself. And I think as we come to an end, or maybe as the curtain closes, right, of this play on season 2, I think what we've done really well is move from building that external toolkit to thinking and mastering the internal game.
Yeah. And seeing negotiation not as something negative, nothing stressful, but acknowledging that it can become an act of joyful resistance, an act of empowerment, an act of renewal, a reclaiming of your voice, your space, and your possibility.
I really encourage everybody that's listening, our fellow actors in this play, or our audience, to craft your own mantra or negotiation script. Something that captures your journey this season and empowers you for every conversation, interview, pitch, and boundary setting moment. Stick it on your laptop.
You carry the toolkit. You carry the wisdom. You are the strategy now. Negotiating from joy is refusing to let fear set the terms of your future. For women and people of color, claiming joy at the table is claiming power at the table.
Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey through your inner self, negotiating with yourself first.
We hope you will feel more at home in your power than ever before.